Hey guys, it's been over a month since I did my first doll makeover. Let's all just move on from that. So I figured it's time to try it again. Except this time, well, you've probably already read the title. I'm going to be giving a My Little Pony doll a makeover. I'm thinking I might chop the head off of mine, but we'll see. So I went to Target and got a ton of passive-aggressive stares while getting Pinkie Pie. She comes with a lot of accessories, none of which I'll be using today. For those of you wondering, let me just start off by saying that I'm not a brony. And I have never given a My Little Pony doll a makeover. But I watched about like 4 videos of Nerdy Crafter trying to do this, so I'm pretty sure I'm about half qualified to try and make a creature of darkness out of this thing. Taking cute things and turning them evil is kind of a hobby of mine. I definitely have some big plans for Pinkie Pie. I'd very much like to bring her to the dark side. So if you want to remove the face or any facial features or paint job and paint on your own, normally you would just use 100% acetone. You could use nail polish remover if you don't have acetone, but that would take a whole lot longer, probably a couple hours, maybe a couple years. I don't know. Most people don't have that kind of time, so I suggest using acetone to remove the face instead. Okay, so I'm not really sure exactly why the acetone didn't work. I'm assuming there's some sort of like protective coating on there, but that's alright. I'm thinking Pinkie Pie could use a little trim off the top. So as unreasonable and irrational as that sounds, I'll be chopping her nose off. Why? I don't know. I should probably be using some real scissors, but I'm gonna just be using these little tiny ones from the nail clipper set my grandma gave me. Sorry if this is coming off as serial killery. Pinkie Pie's cute, I'll give her that much, but I don't really like cute, so we're just gonna redo her whole aesthetic. Pinkie Pie's pretty famous, she's got a lot of fans, so I'm sure someone, some sparkle butt somewhere, will be upset with me about the destruction, but you clicked on this video, so you're at least partially to blame, right? Alright, that'll do. So, yeah, I'd say we're off to a pretty great start. Now that I've chopped off the nose, I figured it would be really cool to turn this into someone very near and dear to my heart. Voldemort. But obviously this is a pretty specific shape to work with, so it probably wouldn't look right. I thought about turning this into someone wearing a dark unicorn costume, but as much as I liked that idea, I thought it was too basic. Even for me. I think I can do better. Not much, but maybe a tiny bit better. So instead, I decided to sculpt a goblin wearing a giraffe costume. A goblin giraffe of sorts. I guess a giraffe kinda looks like a pony, so in my head this was a great idea. Sounds simple enough. Well, I thought so too. We're almost to 7K subs. Almost, but not quite. So if you're new here and you're not a ginger, you should consider selling your soul to me by subscribing to my channel. Also, don't forget to hit that bell icon and select all notifications so you don't lose me on the internet. I post new videos
every Friday.
So anyways, Pinkie Pie's gonna be bald for now. I don't need all this hair for the giraffe, so I'm just gonna chop it all off. Not gonna lie, this is kind of a good look for her. Definitely an improvement, I'd say. There's little bits of stubble left on her bald head, so I wanted to rip those out from the roots of her skull. But after decapitating her, I realized I can't just pull the rest of the scraggly stubble out of her head because this doll's head isn't hollow. I think it's supposed to be hollow. You're supposed to be able to put pliers up there and pull out the really gross bits of hair. Whatever can go wrong, will go wrong. Murphy's always got my back. I've seen tons of videos where you can just pull the hair out from the inside. I don't know if this My Little Pony is just a different type or something. I just don't understand. Giraffes do have little tiny hairs on their head, kind of like a horse's mane except really short, so I guess it's alright. I could have just dyed the hair and tail, I guess, but I've never used dye before and I just didn't feel like it. Plus, I think buying a whole box of dye just for this pony's hair would be kind of a massive amount of waste, so we'll just make do without it. She has no mane and no tail. Don't worry though, I'm gonna go back in and add the little giraffe hair with epoxy later on. Now that I've completely erased her past life and cleared up some prime real estate, I finally have enough space to create some horrors. A fresh start. And so begins our adventure. First off, I wanted to use epoxy to give it a rounded, flat as the earth head. I definitely want to add some distinct facial features, but I wanted a flat base to build off of. I also took a little break from flattening out the face to give our giraffe that hair thing I was talking about. For the costume part, I wanted it to look like he had a giraffe hood resting on top of his head. I'm gonna spare My Little Pony's ears. One, because my generosity knows no bounds, but also just because I want to pretend those are now giraffe ears. Just trying to build off of the pre-existing base. I did add the giraffe's ossicones, the little antennas on top. Personally, I hate antennas and anyone that wears antennas, but I felt like it wouldn't quite be a giraffe without those. Here I'm taking one of my ball tools, and I'm just kind of like making an outline for the face and the mouth. I thought about keeping it like this. I kind of liked it. It kind of looks funny. But no, that would be too lazy. Bad boy. At some point while I was sculpting this, I did come to the realization that giraffes have long necks. And mine doesn't really have much of a neck at all. It took me a while to come up with an excuse that would explain away that
massive oversight.
And the best I could think of is that if you were to dress up like a giraffe for Halloween, like if you were to wear a giraffe onesie, you wouldn't really have a long neck because that's not how costumes really work with your anatomy. Either you accept that as a fact or you failed biology. I do want to add some more detail to his face and costume, but I'm going to wait for it to harden up a little bit before I go in and do that. I thought about putting it in the freezer to like speed up the process, but I'm pretty sure that would make it worse. Would the cold slow down the chemical processes? I don't know. And now that it's sufficiently hardened, I can get started on sculpting the goblin's face. I wanted this goblin to have big bulging eyes and the typical pointy goblin nose with oversized nostrils. Maybe I'll even place some treasures inside the nostrils. We'll see. Because I'm adding a big nose to my goblin, I guess I really didn't have to chop off the nose to begin with. I could have just sculpted the new nose on top, but where's the torture in that? I also didn't need to use acetone at all really because I'm sculpting a new face for my goblin, which I guess works out because the acetone wasn't even working anyway. Probably would have helped me out a lot if I planned this out a bit better, but this is my first time sculpting a My Little Pony, so you live and you learn. To be honest, I'm just making stuff up as I go. I don't really have any plan of action. Anyways, then I added a plate in his mouth where the teeth will be. I'm going to paint on some sharp, pointy teeth. Along with the regular jagged teeth, I do want him to have some tusks. I'm going for that whole CoverGirl look. I'm using my epoxy sculpt for this instead of my regular Sculpey clay. Epoxy dries without having to bake it because of a chemical reaction when it's mixed, whereas with Sculpey and other polymer clay, you have to bake it in the oven, which I can't do for this because My Little Pony would melt into a mush puddle. And possibly set my oven on fire. And as enticing as that sounds, I didn't feel like cleaning it up today. He wasn't looking half bad for a goblin. I could have left him alone at this point, but nah. I gave him some bushy eyebrows. Things are getting spooky. Are the eyebrows on fleek or are they just bushy caterpillars on top of the eyes? I can't decide. Then I thought to myself, maybe I should throw on some warts to really bring out his inner beauty. I also added some little stitches going down the middle of his costume just to make it more apparent that it wasn't like a dead giraffe carcass that he was wearing. That would be weird. That didn't really turn out how I pictured it in my head, but we're here now, so there's no going back. Since I had chopped off the tail earlier, I added a little giraffe's tail with some epoxy. It's not looking like much yet, but I promise it'll start making sense once I paint it. Now, I'm supposed to wait 6 hours for the epoxy to harden, but let's be honest, who has that kind of time nowadays? Once it had decently hardened, I got started on the paint job. I wanted to make it look like as much as a giraffe as possible, brown polka dots and all. Today I'm going to be using my tried and true folk art paints. I love these almost as much as my Posca pens. Okay, well I wouldn't go that far, but I really do like them. Not sponsored. Then I gave the whole thing a nice little gentle, cute sanding just so I could smooth it out and make it a little easier to paint. And because, you know, I like sanding things. I started off by painting the whole giraffe yellow in about 2 to 3 coats of paint. I moved on to adding some color to my giraffe's costume and adding all the little spots and stuff. I painted the rim of the hood brown just to make it stand out and more obvious that it's a costume. I also painted all the little stitches brown, and made the eyes all black. I didn't go over the goblin's face with the same boring yellow color though, because my goblin is gonna be puke colored.
Yum.
I didn't want it to be too close to my tutu witch's color though, so I opted for a light grayish green. Pretty neutral. Didn't want to go for anything too bold or crazy today. The green is kind of making him look sickly and disgusting. Maybe him and the tutu witch can even be sweethearts if she's not too picky. I decided to go back in and repaint the goblin's face a lighter green. It just wasn't popping enough for me. After cleaning it up, I went back in with some Posca pens and added all the little highlights and stuff. He's not perfect, but he is perfectly atrocious. And that's something.
Some of you guys think it's annoying for commenting on every single video. That's the opposite of the truth. You're supposed to like and comment on every video. Comment multiple times. Comment 10 times if you want. He'll respond to it. Do it! Do it now!